begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words, let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Every sound, every line brings us closer to turning our learners into super prosers. Phonics and fun, on a journey we'll lead. With every Tuesday, we plant another seed. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Step by step, we'll find our way. Through every challenge, come what may. In our group, you're never alone. Together we'll turn this skill into a stone. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise, together we'll rise. Teaching Tuesdays, the sky's the prize. Oh, welcome in, grab a seat, let's begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words, let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Teaching Tuesday. This is episode number 57, and I am your host, Katina Taylor. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you all here with me on YouTube and in our private Facebook group, Literacy the Dreams Away. Again, thank you all so much for joining me. I have been pre-recording episodes and uploading them. And so some of you may be new to the channel. So I encourage you to like, subscribe, share out our content, invite others to join us right here every Tuesday. We normally go live at 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today, however, we are starting at 6:30 because sister had to go get that hair done, and I knew I was going to be in traffic during rush hour. I wanted to make sure I had enough time to get in, to get situated, and to be ready to give you all the best content possible. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is episode number 57 of Teaching Tuesdays. That means for well over a year, 57 weeks, we have been going live either in our private Facebook group, Literacy the Dreams Way, or on YouTube, right? Sharing critical tips, strategies, practices, activities that you can use with your literacy learners. For 2024, we focused on our earliest learners, our pre-K to third grade, those crucial years where we are spending time building neural pathways so that students can become confident and competent readers. For 2025, I made a commitment for those parents that have adolescent literacy learners or teachers that teach adolescent literacy learners to bring content to each and every one of you that you can apply with our older learners. Now, oftentimes when we hear the term adolescent, what we are thinking about is our teenage literacy learners. But in education, what we are talking about when we say adolescent literacy learners, we are talking about fourth grade and above. So upper elementary middle school, and high school. And those are still some of our literacy learners. We would love for each and every student to master literacy by third grade, the end of third grade. We've heard all the data surrounding that, but that just hasn't been the case. And so there are some of our students that are fourth grade and above that need some additional support, some intentional and consistent teaching, very specific skills, so that any gaps that they may be experiencing can be closed, right? So tonight, what we're talking about is unlocking sounds, phonemic awareness activities for older students. That's what we are talking about this evening. Again, my name is Katina Taylor. For those of you that are just discovering the channel or my content, that's who I am. I'm excited to walk with you today through powerful ways to build sound-based literacy skills with your adolescent literacy learner. Again, we go live every Tuesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on our YouTube channel and in our private Facebook group. So zip on over there if you like the comfort, the safety, the privacy of a private Facebook group. It's called Literacy the Dreams Way, and we would love for you to join us. So let me tell you a little bit about myself as we get started today, right? I want to make sure that you are clear on who I am and why you should be listening to Katina. Well, I spent 15 years in the classroom, the first 3 years in a traditional public school teaching middle school English language arts. That's how I got my feet wet. Then I spent 7 years in a first grade classroom, which if any of you know, that is a crucial year for reading. That's sometimes when that light bulb goes on for our students and they take off as readers. And I spent the last 5 years of my classroom time teaching high schoolers, and that's where my certification is as well. I've been in the education ecosystem for a total of 25 years now, and that is just amazing to me. I am also a literacy advocate, a visionary leader. I am the founder and CEO of Dreams KC, a nonprofit social enterprise where we empower parents with the tools they need to teach their children foundational literacy skills. Now, you may say, okay, Katina, what does that really mean? It means that you can come to Teaching Tuesdays. You can come to our classes in person. Soon, you will also be able to access courses online. And you will equip yourself as a parent, as a caregiver, as an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, an early career educator, or an educator that realizes that you were not equipped to effectively teach literacy to our students. You come and you get the nitty gritty tools, strategies, activities that you can do based on the science of reading, structured literacy, what we know works for children in the area of literacy so that they can become confident and competent readers. That's who I am. That's what I have done. And I will tell you, in the 15 years that I spent in the classroom, my test scores were always off the charts. My students were moving and grooving, right? And I could have continued to teach small groups of students, tutored, because I always tutored as well. And I would have been having an impact. But in these United States, we are in such a crisis around literacy. So many children need help. And I am a firm believer that parents are the first and most important teachers of their own children. And in short bursts of consistent and intentional teaching, you are capable, whether you believe it or not, you are capable of teaching your children foundational literacy skills in the privacy of your own home. So you don't have to carve out time to take them to a tutor. You don't have to carve out time to vet people that say they can teach your children literacy skills, right? You don't have to find the time, the transportation to get them to and fro sports, music, crafts, technology classes, and literacy on top of all of that. The things that I teach, the things that I cover can be done while you're preparing dinner, while you're doing laundry, while it's family time in the evenings, 3 to 5 days a week, 15 minutes to 45 minutes maximum. Fun, engaging, hands-on, body kinesthetic, creative, infusing technology, all of the things that make learning fun for children and teaching it fun for you. So again, thank you for joining us for Teaching Tuesdays. I am so excited to have you all with us, and I want to just, dive right on in. Again, this episode, let me tell you this though. I want to tell you this. I want to point this out. I put this slide in a couple of weeks ago to really start sharing with you all the fact that Teaching Tuesdays, it's free. You show up, right? And on a Tuesday, 6:00 p.m. traditionally, right here on our YouTube channel or in our private Facebook group. And this is what you get. You get what's above the surface. If you are familiar with the iceberg principle, that's what you get. Remember that the iceberg principle tells us what we see above the surface, which is what I consider Teaching Tuesday to be. It's 15% of the total pie, the total cake, the total iceberg, right? It's 15%. But what's beneath the surface, that other 85%, is the meat and the potatoes, right? It is a full-on integrated approach to teaching literacy to your children in the privacy of your home. So effectively, you become their tutor. You become their literacy champion. You become the individual or group of individuals that are going to be accountable, responsible, champions for, advocates for, teachers of your children, and you will see them grow by leaps and bounds. So I do this Teaching Tuesday so you kind of get used to me. I still want to give you strategies that you can implement if you never, ever, ever have an opportunity to engage with me in person, right? So I want to make sure that I'm giving you something of value each and every week, but I want you to also understand that what you get on Teaching Tuesdays is not the meat and potatoes. It certainly is high level instruction, activities, opportunities for you to move your children to become confident and competent readers. But when you get with me one-on-one, whoo, baby, you talking about really moving our children, moving them quickly, celebrating those wins, focusing on the challenges and the barriers that may be hindering them from becoming the best readers they can be, regardless if they're in pre-K or if they're in 12th grade. We want to ensure that they thrive in their lives. And the way that we do that is through our parent literacy trainings, our decodable book walks, and decodable book literacy hubs. You can learn more about those things later, but I want to get to our content. And I just wanted to share with you kind of how we approach this, why we approach it the way that we do. So tonight's episode is all about sound-based learning. Yes, we'll dive into practical phonemic awareness activities, designed specifically for growing readers in grades 4 through 12. These are strategies that I have used, that I continue to use, and that I trust make a real impact. So that's what we're talking about in episode 57 of Teaching Tuesdays. Let's dive right on in, right? So again, we are focused on those students, those growing readers, those literacy learners in grades 4 through 12. We're talking about phonemic awareness, not phonological awareness, even though phonemic awareness is a part of it, not phonics, not vocabulary today, although those things are impacted by phonemic awareness, right? So I want you to be really, really clear on what we're talking about today, this evening, right? And I'll also explain how it all fits together in the grand scheme of things, okay? So what is phonemic awareness? Make sure you have some notes, take a screenshot, right? Whatever you need to do, come back and rewatch it. Put hashtag, right, replay in the comments. If you come back, ask any questions, share any comments that you may have, we will respond to them. So what is phonemic awareness? In a nutshell, it is sound recognition. It is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds, the tiniest unit of sounds, phonemes, in spoken words, right? It is different than phonological awareness, which is what we talked about last week. So go back and look at that video if you haven't seen it, okay? I want you to be clear. This Phonemic awareness is not about actual graphemes, the letters, the symbols that represent the sounds, not at this level, okay? It is entirely auditory. Can they hear? And when they hear, can they identify? And as we add or substitute or delete sounds verbally, can they manipulate those individual sounds? That's what we are talking about. It is purely auditory. I want you to think of it as a foundational skill for spelling, decoding, and ultimately fluent reading. It's critical that students master phonemic awareness. And if they have not, even 4th through 12th graders, you will see it show up in their ability to decode unfamiliar, academic, professional vocabulary, unfamiliar words for them. And again, it's purely auditory in nature. I hope that makes sense to you all. Okay. So I always like to start by giving you a foundation. What is this that we're talking about? We're talking about phonemic awareness. It is auditory, and it's the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds that we call phonemes. So if you hear that in your school district, you know what we're talking about. It's the tiniest unit of sound. It is the a when we talk about a short a. It is when we talk about the letter C, okay? So I want you to understand we're talking about the tiniest unit of sound in spoken words. All righty. So when we think about phonemic awareness, sometimes we also hear phonological awareness, and a lot of people confuse those and think they are the same thing. They are not, you all. They are different. They are different. Phonological awareness, y'all ready? It includes rhyming, syllabication, like elephant, word parts, right? Parts that make up that word, okay? Not individual sounds. And onset rhyme. So when we think about word families, for instance, cat, hat, sat, bat, right? All of those end with at, A-T. And we change the onset, the k, the b, the the t, the p, right? Those beginning sounds. So when we think about phonological awareness, we're still talking about sound, but in a different way. Phonemic awareness is the most advanced level, right? Working with those tiny individual sounds and words. It's the top floor, so to speak, in the foundation of literacy. So the way that I often describe it is I say phonological awareness is the foundation. Phonemic awareness takes phonological awareness up a level. It's the top part of the foundation, the most solid, right? To ensure that our children are going to become, catapult, take off, become those masterful literacy learners that we know that they can be, right? Every layer of the foundation, right, it supports reading success. So if we do phonological awareness, but we don't do phonemic awareness, we're doing our children a disservice. They are not one and the same. All right. So I want to make sure that you all are aware of that. So let me show you the way that I thought about it. I had seen some forms of this over the years, and I was like, no, I needed to really pop and make sense for families, for teachers, for individuals, right? So phonological awareness, remember, it's the foundation. It's at the bottom, down here at the bottom. This long, little narrow rectangle, right? It is it's the foundation of what I call the literacy house. It includes, again, the ability to recognize and work with sounds in spoken language. However, remember, it is the skill, the basic skills that all reading and spelling abilities are built. So we're talking syllabication, rhyming, onset rhyme, and here's another one, alliteration. What do I mean when I say alliteration? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, right? So you can make up those. It really teaches children a fun way to play with sound, but they also get exposure to the different ways in which sounds are made, right? They get that ongoing practice while they're having fun. So alliteration, onset rhyme, R-I-M-E, rhyming, right? Jack and Jill went up the hill. Which words rhyme? I love nursery rhymes. I did not realize that children are not exposed to nursery rhymes anymore, but they're exposed to rap lyrics. How can we use those to teach rhyme? So just like a house needs a strong foundation to stand, students need phonological awareness to become successful readers and writers. So that sets the tone. Then, right, phonemic awareness is kind of the top level of the foundation, the most advanced, the most sturdy piece of the foundation. It should not be thought of as just one of the rooms. No, no, no. It is a significant part of the foundation of the literacy house. So I want you to think of phonemic awareness as the top floor, or again, the most advanced part of the foundation, with the larger foundation of phonological awareness, right? Okay, then you have the other rooms within the literacy house: phonics and decoding, on that word recognition strand of Scarborough's reading rope. If you've been with me any amount of time, you know I talk about that a lot. Go back and look at some of our previous videos. You'll see it. We talk about fluency, the automaticity, reading automatically with expression, right? So that's our fluency. That's another strand. We need that. Vocabulary, building our word knowledge, knowing what individual words mean in context, right? We talk about morphology, the study of prefixes, suffixes, root words, base words, etc. And that all gets us to comprehension, which is the ultimate goal, meaning making from the text, excuse me. So that is our literacy house. I apologize, you all. That is our literacy house. That's my mom calling me. All right. And I wanted you to understand where phonological awareness and phonemic awareness lie as the foundation, and then the other rooms that make it up. I think this is important because it's an easy way to kind of understand the concepts that you'll hear teachers, tutors, administrators, special ed individuals speak about literacy. So when you hear these terms, they won't be unfamiliar to you. You'll have somewhat of a clearer understanding of them, because oftentimes parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, siblings, whoever it may be, will sit in a parent-teacher conference or be going over some assessment results, and teachers forget, education professionals forget that you didn't go to school. You haven't been exposed to a lot of this terminology, and you'll sit there so nice and polite and go, yes, and you haven't understood because we use terms that you aren't familiar with. So I use these terms, but I try to put them in a way that makes it clear to understand for you. All right. So this is the literacy house. We'll use this more and more to ensure that you all have a clear understanding of where we are in the house on the way to building our confident and competent readers. All right. So why does phonemic awareness still matter in the upper grades? Remember, we're talking fourth grade and above. And if you have a younger child, don't think this doesn't apply. They should have, with consistent and intentional teaching. Pre-K through third grade, they should be getting instruction in phonemic awareness, and by the end of third grade have mastered it. But if they haven't, because they may not have had great teachers, they may have started school during COVID, they could have had some hearing issues. Ear infections impact the way in which we hear things, right? So a child that's had an extensive number of ear infections and had to get tubes, and it could be any number of things, right, that impact. They could have had lead poisoning, because remember, we're building new neural pathways. So there could be some reason why by the end of third grade they haven't yet mastered this particular skill, these groups of skills. Well, that's why we are targeting these 4th through 5th or 12th graders in 2025, because we want to let you know, hey, they may have just missed the mark. Maybe they had a long-term sub for 2 years in a row. Remember, we have a teacher shortage, but it still applies to the younger students too, if in fact they haven't yet mastered these skills. So why does it matter in the upper grades, right? I want to make sure we get back to that. So even in middle and high school, gaps in phonemic awareness can keep students from decoding more complex words, multi-syllabic, I can't talk today, multi-syllabic words, right? Words that have more than 2 syllables, right? Multiple syllables. Elephant, 3 syllables. Hippopotamus, right? More, and so on and so forth. Adolescent, 4 syllables, multi-syllabic, okay? In grades 4 and above, our vocabulary expands. The fiction and nonfiction text vocabulary expands. It gets more complex. And so we want to ensure that they can expand their vocabulary, decode more complex words, and read with confidence. The good news, if they do have a gap in their phonemic awareness skills, it's fixable pretty quickly most times. The data tells us that 90% of our students are capable of becoming confident and competent readers if we do the work. And so today we're going to go in and start doing the work on how this is a fixable, solvable problem if in fact you have a adolescent literacy learner that just hasn't quite mastered phonemic awareness skills. Now, when you hear me say master, and you've heard me say it a lot, understand and know that when I talk about mastery, what I'm saying is we know a student has mastered a skill or a group of skills if they can independently demonstrate an understanding of that skill with 90% accuracy. That's what we're talking about, okay? So I just want you all to understand and know that. So key principles from structured literacy. And I want you all to know that what I talk about is always focused in on the science of reading. Structured literacy is systematic instruction. We're explicitly talking about teaching things in a logical skills sequence because they build on one another. Okay. We always want to deal with sound first. So we talk about phonological awareness, phonemic awareness. We're talking sound first. Before we talk about their connections to graphemes, i.e. letters, right? We're talking about those phonemes, those tiniest units of sound. We always go from simple things, early success, to more complex or difficult or challenging concepts, right? So we start in isolation, blending, segmenting, manipulation. We want to isolate those sounds first. Then we want to blend sounds, right? So we talk about them in isolation. Then we talk about blending, cat. Then we talk about segmenting. I give you the word cat. I ask you to break it up into sounds for me. Then we talk about manipulating. So we may say change cat by taking away the k sound and adding a b sound. What do we have? They should be able to say bat. Oh, you have bat? Well, change bat to bad. Oh, I can do that. I can take away the t sound and add the d sound. Now I have bad, right? So that's what we talk about. We talk about manipulation. And it's always good to use a multi-sensory approach. We want them using their bodies. Clap it out, tap it out, snap it out, stomp it out, move things around, play games so their whole body is involved in the learning process. There is something to be said about the mind-body connect. When they have experiences, when they have hands-on activities, they tend to get the information into their long-term memory quicker, and it stays longer because they've had this muscle memory. All right. So I just want you to understand that when we talk about these different activities around phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, or whatever it may be, I'm always going to use a multi-sensory approach. Right? Okay. Let's keep it moving. So when we talk about phonemic awareness, we have some very core skills to target, right? So when I just kind of went through that on the other slide, I'm going to reiterate it here. What we're talking about is phoneme isolation, phoneme sound isolation, okay? So I want you to be really, really clear about what we're talking about here. Then we go into blending. So we're combining separate sounds into whole words so that our students understand the concept of in the need of combining sounds to create words. Okay. Then we start talking about phoneme segmentation, breaking words apart into their individual sounds. And then we start talking about adding, deleting, or substituting sounds, meaning we're manipulating the phonemes in some way, right? So these are the core skills that we target when we teach, support, practice phoneme awareness, okay? I want you all to understand that. All right, let's keep it going. So you say, okay, Katina, you have given us the foundation. You told us why it's important. You told us what it is. You told us how it fits into the overall literacy house, right? You talked about scaffolding or doing it step by step so that our students, our children actually master this skill of phonemic awareness, right? So now I'm going to get into the activities. I'm going to share with you some activities that you can do. Again, at home, 15 minutes, y'all, 45 minutes max. But 15 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week, boom, bop, bam, you are going to begin to see the gap shrink. Or if you're working with our younger people, you say, well, Katina, they're not struggling. I don't want them to struggle. Should I be teaching this? Yes. You want them to master this, right? Phonemic awareness, you want them to master it no matter their age, right? And it's great to get it on the front end while they're learning to read versus coming back to it on the back end and having to do some remediation, some reteaching, some additional support because they were failed along the way. Okay. So activity number 1, blending and segmenting multi-syllabic words, right? So as you see these words, remember we're talking 4th to 12th grade. We have transportation, excellent, discussion. So we're talking about looking at the individual sounds we hear in these words. So you see in that middle column, you'll give them a word. I'm going to give you the word transportation. I want you to tell me first, I would say, give me the syllables, the word parts you hear in transportation. Let's clap it out. Transportation. Right? Transportation. 4 syllables. Now, let's take it a step further. You know the big chunks, the word parts in transportation. Do you know the individual sounds? And then they go through and tell you the sounds that they hear, the individual sounds that they hear in the word transportation. And you want to do this multiple times to determine whether or not your child is able to do this with multiple words with success at their grade level. And at the end of this live, I will give you a QR code where you can go get word lists. You don't have to worry about making them up. I've already done that for you, and I've made that available. Of every activity that we talk about tonight, I have given you resources to implement it. Remember, I said I'm giving you actionable strategies, right? I'm giving you everything you need to implement with your children today. Okay? So this is blending and segmenting multi-syllabic words. You may, on the flip, instead of giving them the word, you give them the actual sounds, and then you ask them, put those sounds together. What word is that? Right? D, I, S, sh, un. And they should be able to say discussion. Blend these sounds. Tell me what word it is. Blend these sounds. Tell me what word that I've just made, right? That's what you want to do when you're talking about blending and segmenting. Blending them together, breaking them apart. They need to be able to do both. Okay? All right, let's keep it moving. Activity 2, sound chaining, or what some people consider to be word ladders. So you start with a base word. And remember, if we were starting with fourth graders, starting with the word cat, very simple, very easy to explain the process and the activity. So you say, all right, I'm going to give you the word cat. And I usually have letter tiles or bingo chips. And so for each sound I hear, I'm going to say cat. So we have 3 chips or 3 letter tiles right there. Now we're going to change cat to mat. How would I do that? They should be able to tell you change to and we have mat. All right, I want to change mat to met. What would I do? I'm going to keep but I'm going to change to and I'm going to keep now I have met. And we're doing this and it could be coins, it could be beans, it could be Skittles, it could be M&Ms, it could be whatever you want. It could just be colorful paper, right? It could be colorful Post-it notes, construction paper you've cut up into squares. It can be anything that you use. You just want them moving things along, right? How can they do that and track what they're doing? Oh, I want to go from met to let. What would I do? I'm going to change to and I want, instead of having let, I want to have a leg. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep and I'm going to change to g. And you want to track the way in which they change the words to ensure that you know, oh, they know how to change the beginning sound. Do they know how to change that middle sound? Do they know how to change the ending sound? You want opportunities for them to manipulate, change, not just the beginning all the time, but also those vowel sounds in the middle, the glue that holds the words together, and those ending sounds. We need to see that they can master all of that, right? And then you want to discuss as you all go why they should be making the changes that they make. I use the I do, we do, you do method, meaning you're going to demonstrate first. So if you want to do this one first, cat, mat, met, let, leg, right? You want to start there? Great. That's the I do. I'm going to do this and demonstrate for them. Remember, at home, it's not about I got you. It's about practice. So we need to model it for them first. The second time we do it, we're going to do it together. That's the we do part. And then lastly, we want to give them some independent practice doing it themselves. And we're going to observe them. We're going to support them as they go until they've shown us that they are really ready to do it independently and independently demonstrate their understanding of the skill. All right, so that's activity number 2. All right, so activity number 3, phoneme manipulation. Can they add a sound? Can they take away a sound? Can they substitute a sound and make new words? For example, you may say to them, my word is mile. Add s to mile to make smile. Can they do that? That's addition. You might say, my word is plant. What do I have if I take the p sound away? Lant. A nonsense word, but we just need to know that they can do it, hear it. Nonsense words count, okay? Last but certainly not least, you might say change the in plant. And actually, I would change the p and the in plant and add g, and they should then say we have grant. Okay. And you want to do, you do it first. I'm going to demonstrate adding, right? Something, a phoneme, a sound. I'm going to demonstrate deleting a sound. I'm going to demonstrate or model for them substituting sounds in words so that they get the idea. Your child may move fast. Your child may move slow. You know what they can do. Do we introduce addition, deletion, and substitution at the same time? For some kids, they're going to be okay with that. For other kids, they may need us to do just phoneme addition first, then go to deleting phonemes, then go to substituting phonemes. You know your child's best. You know if they get overwhelmed or frustrated quickly. So we don't want to overwhelm them. We take our cues from them. They lead us through the process. So that's activity number 3, that phoneme manipulation, adding, deleting, and substituting phonemes or sounds, right? All right, and then we have activity number 4, what we call minimal pairs and rhyme games, right? So you use pairs like ship and sheep or cap and cup, and you want to help your child fine tune their ear for sound differences. This is really good if we have ELL learners as well, because some languages have fewer sounds than the English language. For instance, Spanish, far fewer sounds than the English language has, and some of their sounds are very different than what happens in the English language. So this will be really, really clear, or a good activity for them to practice sound discrimination or sound differences, right? And so you want to have them, you want to say, okay, this word is ship, this word is sheep. What's the difference? They should be able to tell you that the vowel sound in ship is I, and the vowel sound in sheep is E, long E. Bet, the vowel sound is what? Eh. And I would make it even more challenging. Instead of doing bat, because that vowel sound is ah, even our mouth does something different. Ah versus eh. See that? Eh, ah. But what about eh, the E, and I? Oh, can they distinguish between those? And some of those are those vowel sounds that get confusing for students because our mouth doesn't make a major shift. And sometimes those sounds, depending on your dialect, your region, etc., your home language, etc., then they could be more closely or easier to confuse than other sounds. So I want you to understand that as well. So implementation tips for minimal pairs and rhyme games. You can use picture or word cards. You can play sorting games. Sort the short I, sort the sort, I can't talk, the short U, the long vowels, the vowel teams, all the things, right? So you want to sort them. You can create word family charts. You can practice tongue twisters, right? You can do all of these, and these activities are really, really, again, valuable for our English language learners. I promise you they are. All right, so this is another activity. So we're talking 4 different ways we're assessing, we're practicing phonemic awareness skills, and we want them to master all of them. Remember, independently demonstrating their understanding of skills with 90% accuracy or above. Okay, that's what we're looking for in all of these. Okay, all right. So I want to give you some tips as you think about utilizing these activities with your adolescent literacy learner or even your younger learner. You want to keep it brief. Now, I say 15 minutes minimum to 45 minutes maximum. Some people 5 to 10 minutes if you're doing some additional work after that, right? But you still want to be consistent. So 3 to 5 days a week. Focus on listening. This is auditory. This isn't about worksheets or anything like that when you're building their phonemic awareness skills. Okay? You want to be multisensory. We discussed that before. Use bingo chips, peanuts, if they don't have a peanut allergy, right? M&M's, Skittles, something, and then make it fun. You get them right, you get to eat them. Maybe your family don't do a lot of sweets, so this will be a treat, a reward. Do it with money, coins. It could be anything that is multisensory, and you want to keep it positive. Celebrate the wins the moment they happen. I mean, go all out, be supportive. We're not comparing our children to their older siblings, their younger siblings, their best friend, their teammates, the neighborhood kid. No, everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses, everyone learns differently and at their own pace. And that's what we have to keep in mind. Okay. Keep it positive. As we celebrate them, as they have these early successes, as we acknowledge their strengths, it builds their confidence. And when we build up their confidence as learners, as people, as children, they want to practice more. The more they practice, the more they become competent at the skill. They reach mastery. So confidence and competence go together. That's why we have to be positive, cheering them on, doing it, modeling it, doing it with them, adding support, and then allowing them to do it independently. Okay. So I want you all to understand that. So you say, okay, Katina, we're doing these activities. I know what phonemic awareness is. I know how it fits into the literacy house. How do I know if my child has mastered this? I know you defined mastery, but how do I know? Well, you want to look for indicators. You want to look for indicators that tell us that they are progressing. We should see improved decoding skills when they come across new or unfamiliar words, or words that they previously read and didn't get right or correct or accurate. We should see that change, right? So fewer errors as they read and encounter new or unfamiliar words, or words that they got wrong before. And their confidence should be consistently increasing. If we are consistent, if we are intentional, you will see gradual progress, growth, right? And over time, you're going to see them just take off. You're going to, who is this kid? This is not the same kid I was working with before, because they've gotten better because we've been intentional and consistent. And we focused on the area where they needed help. Okay? So I want you to be clear about that. So I always leave you all with a call to action, a challenge, so to speak. So we talked about 4 different activities. We talked about blending and segmenting. We talked about sound chaining. We talked about phoneme manipulation, and we talked about minimal pairs and rhymes. 4 different strategies, tools, activities that you can do to support the development of phonemic awareness in your children. I want you to choose one activity. I want you to do them all, but just start with one that you're going to try for 3 days. Remember, I said 3 to 5 days. I want you to use the QR code that comes after this and get the word list that's going to be appropriate for your child. I've broken it down 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, all the way to 12th grade. So you'll have a word list for any activity that you choose to do. And I want you to try it for 3 days. Practice consistently for 3 days. This week, we're on Tuesday, so we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Y'all good. Okay? You got Saturday and Sunday and Monday too, because we don't do Teaching Tuesday again until next Tuesday. Okay? So 3 days, one activity, access the word list you need, and I want you to do this for at least 5 minutes, really 15. Because I want you to get in the groove of it. I want you to get the habit of practicing. I want you to build up your endurance as well. But I also want you to keep the session short and focused so that your child stays engaged, not bored, especially if they're coming home from where they've been in school all day already, right? So we want to ensure that the sessions are short, that they are focused, so that the child, student, scholar, literacy learner stays engaged. So that's the weekly challenge. That's the call of action. And then I want you, I just looked at that. See, AI would be good for some things, but I just looked at that photo. Y'all notice the photo? Phonemic aware activities. It combined awareness and activities. I just noticed that. But in any case, blame it on the AI. I want you to, this is your call to action. Choose an activity, get the appropriate word list, do it consistently and intentionally. So consistency is that 3 days. Intentionality, we're going to do 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes really with each activity. to ensure your child has mastered the skill. How do I know my child needs phonemic awareness? Well, several weeks ago, we went through signs that your child may be struggling in different areas. And so you can go back and look at that video or look at their literacy assessment results. Now, if you're in Missouri, we use the NWEA map. Their school, that's as a state, right? Every student, third grade, required to take it and above, right? However, they just took the map. So they won't have results for this most recent one, but they will have the previous one. But what they might also have in an individual school setting is what's called an iReady score. That's an assessment tool that's used in some. They may have a STAR score. That's another assessment that is used. Or you can use these activities to assess whether or not they need additional practice. If you do this in several settings over the next 3 days and you realize that they are not making any mistakes, guess what? They may have already mastered phonemic awareness. Great. How's it showing up in their reading? That's the ultimate practice, right? Are they able to decode words at grade level in a grade level text? New or unfamiliar words, can they blend when they come to a new or unfamiliar word? Okay, so you can use these activities to assess where they are. Do they need more practice? You can ask your school for their iReady or STAR results. You can look at last year's MAP assessment results and determine if they need additional practice or not. All right, you've got this. As long as you are consistent, you hear me? Long as you keep it positive, long as you keep these activities brief, and you continue to talk to, with, advocate for their growth, their literacy growth with their school teacher, their classroom teacher, with the administrators, with the reading interventionists, with their literacy coaches, with the tutor, right? You all are a team. It takes a village to move our children's literacy, right? To build them into confident and competent readers, we have to work together, all right? So, you guys, I do not see the barcode there. Give me 1 second. I'm going to find it for you. I promise I will. Give me just a second, you guys. I can't believe I don't have that in there. I created it just for you today. Because I want you to have the QR code. That's the only way you can get access to. Here we go. I found it, you all. So sorry. Let me come back to you over here. I'm going to share my screen. You all should be able to have it. I'm going to leave it up for a second. You can screenshot this. You can go right to it now and access. These are instructions for each of the activities and the word list for each activities from each activity from this episode. So you should be able to scan this QR code and go directly to a Google Doc. You want to look for the grade level within the activity that you have chosen, because remember, you're choosing one to do over the next 3 days, you guys, right? To ensure that your child, your students have access, practice, support in building, mastering phonemic awareness skills. So this is the QR code. I apologize that I did not have it up sooner. I hope you are able to screenshot this or go ahead and scan the QR code and go to those resources. I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm coming back over here. All right, that's it, you guys. That is it. I believe that is it for the day. Yes, we knocked it out. We kept our time. I usually try to be 45 minutes to an hour max. So I'm so glad that we were able to get through it all. Again, like, share, invite others to join us for Teaching Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on YouTube or in our private Facebook group, you guys. And you know how I end every session. If you've been with me anytime at all, you know that I say, let's get lit, y'all. Until next time, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, like, share, subscribe to the channel, share this information with other folks that you know are interested in helping their children or their students become confident and competent readers. Bye.
Welcome in, grab a seat, let's begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic